Hi friends, welcome back to 5 Minute Modern. My name is Cindy, and today we're discussing the work of the radical French realist painter Gustave Courbet. Most art historians consider Impressionism to be the starting point for modern art, but as we'll see, Courbet's realist style was an important forerunner to the Impressionist movement. Courbet was born in Arnason in 1819, coming of age in the era of Romanticism in art. Painters like Germany's Caspar David Friedrich or Eugene Delacroix in Courbet's native France painted impassioned canvases that expressed the tumultuousness of nature while celebrating the individual. Though Courbet generally admired Delacroix's work, he wanted to set a completely different course for his own. Courbet rejected the neatness and prettiness of Romanticism as part of a larger rejection of what he saw as the imaginary nature of Romantic paintings, which drew on classical allegories to portray invented scenes. We can see Courbet's sharp break with Romanticism quite clearly in one of his early successes, the 1849 painting, The Stonebreakers. In stark contrast to the grace and color evident in Romantic compositions, The Stonebreakers offers a gritty and unidealized portrait of labor. Portraying the plight of laborers was especially important to Courbet, who adopted a sort of proto-socialist worldview even before Marx and Engels published the Communist Manifesto. A similar effort can be seen in Courbet's Burial at Ornans, a monumental canvas stretching nearly 22 feet long and over 10 feet high. Historically speaking, a canvas of this size would have been reserved for a grand historical or religious scene, but Courbet chose to monumentalize an ordinary funeral in his provincial home of Ornans. For Courbet to focus on the downtrodden in an unflinchingly de-glamorized way was shocking and controversial to many in the art world establishment of his day, which was exactly Courbet's intent. Courbet had a combative and rebellious personality, and he wanted to shock the bourgeoisie out of their complacency. His most infamous painting, an 1866 work titled The Origin of the World, is a tightly cropped close-up view of a woman's genitalia. I won't be showing that work for obvious reasons, but I think it's demonstrative of Courbet's desire to shock his audience. Similarly, Courbet had a massive ego, as is evident in another of his famous paintings, 1854's The Meeting, depicting Courbet at the right being greeted by his friend and patron Alfred. In sharp contrast to the long history of artists flattering their patrons, Courbet shows his patron looking deferential, as though trying to prove himself worthy of buying a painting by the great Courbet. As writer Julian noted, this point is further highlighted by Bruyère's short cane, nearly half the length of the walking stick wielded by Courbet. But in spite of these glaring provocations, I find Courbet's most interesting work to be his subtly rendered landscapes. For all his egotism, Courbet was surprisingly deferential to nature, writing that the beauty of nature was superior to anything that an artist could create. Consequently, he worked to capture nature as faithfully as he could in his paintings. I'm not sure it quite comes across on YouTube, but whenever I see one of Courbet's paintings in person, I'm always struck by their complex textures, which make the scenes feel palpably true to life. Courbet's aim was to capture the world exactly as he saw it with his own eyes, and his dedication to faithfully capturing his own vision of a scene would lay the groundwork for the Impressionist painters who followed immediately after him. Edouard Manet considered Courbet to be a predecessor to his own work, and in turn, Manet would influence Edgar Degas, Berthe Morisot, and other Impressionists to follow. However, just at the time that these artists were revolutionizing painting, political upheaval was roiling France. From 1870 to 1871, Paris was besieged by the Prussian army as part of the Franco-Prussian War. Immediately following the French army's surrender in 1871, the outraged working class seized power and created the short-lived Paris Commune. The politically radical Courbet seized upon the moment and became a leader in the Commune, spearheading efforts to topple the Vendôme Column, a monument to Napoleon's imperial war against Austria. The column would later be re-erected and remains in place today. Within a few months of its inception, the Paris Commune was violently ended when the National French Army launched an attack to retake control of the city. Courbet spent 6 months in jail for his role in the Commune before accepting exile in Switzerland in 1873. Courbet would remain in exile until his death in 1877. In the decades that followed his death, Courbet's seemingly simple idea of capturing nature exactly as he saw it would transform the art world forever. Thanks so much for watching this one. As always, I hope you enjoyed the video and I hope you learned something new. Please be sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.